Can you speak towards your past of building product-based businesses outside of your creative day job work?
Yeah, I mean, you can start an apparel brand, like in bootstrap one, or you can make a bonfire using $100 bills, and they produce pretty much the same amount of result.
That's true. It's so hard to do merch and like, don't force it and don't feel bad if it doesn't work, because it's so much work and you really have to love it. And it's so few make it successful like Ariza did.
Yeah, I think, successful. Thank you for calling me successful.
The Perspective Podcast is fuel for your mind and creative grind. Each week, my guests and I provide the skills for thinking bigger, overcoming adversity, and making an impact with your work.
What's going on, podcast family? We are reunited today with Amy and Jen Hood, as well as Josh Ariza from Chomp. How's everyone doing today?
I'd just like to say we got top billing. First word said, where's Amy and Jen Hood?
What the hell was that about? I thought I was greasing you behind the scenes, man. We got to redo this whole beginning now.
No, this is how it needs to be said. Jen and Amy and Josh Hood. Because
Jen and
Josh
Amy
is
and
our triplet.
The triplet.
So, yeah, he's our unofficial sister.
All right. Note taken for the intro. Triplets, Jen, Amy, and Josh, the three J's. Okay. So to catch people up to speed, I had Jen and Amy on. Oh my gosh, look, we're old now. So March 28th of 2018, episode 71. This is episode 229, by the way. And then Chomp, Josh Ariza of Chomp, episode 113 of January 30th, 2019. So it's been a while. This is very long overdue. So I really appreciate y'all making time to do this with me. And this is going to be a weird hodgepodge today. I think we just threw a bunch of topics together. Josh went and crowdsourced some ideas too. So let's just throw it all out there. Let's do brief intros, brief Wikipedia page summary, in case someone on this floating rock in space does not know who you are or what you do. And let's give it over to Josh first, since they broke the ice first. All right.
Yes, the man goes first. So I tell people I'm a commercial artist, a brand designer, and apparel specialist. I'm self-employed, and then I also run an apparel brand called Chomp, which is sold at various retailers and on the internet at chompbrand.com. So kind of a jack of all trades, been in the business for about 15, 16 years. I'm not sure. I'm old now, man. I'm going to start using face cream and stuff.
Josh, you're forgetting that you've gone viral on Twitter multiple times.
Yo, man, that's a nightmare. You never want to go viral on Twitter.
It really is.
And yet, Josh, you're constantly doing it.
The USA Today logo. I remember the USA Today logo, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, like really, you're doing that?"
Yeah, I like to troll the design stuff a little bit. It's usually pretty lighthearted, but people can take it pretty seriously sometimes. I just like to joke about design and stuff. I keep it pretty positive on there because it's pretty much a hellscape, I think, out there on Twitter.
That is true. That is true.
Right.
I tweet like once every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You give our spiel.
We are Amy and Jen of Hoodzpah. We do brand identity and type design. We've recently been getting into a lot of like title treatment movie logo design, which has been super fun. And we've been fleshing out like our little mini Hood Fonts Foundry a lot recently. So making fonts, we're actually taking the rest of the year mostly to work on internal stuff like fonts. So we're hoping to have a bunch to share like across, the next half of this year and next year. And it's fun.
And
Hoodzpah.
And how we've all connected was conferences. Like that's pretty much the name of the game. And things are starting to open up kind of again, but regardless, power of relationships, conferences have been everything. That's why the show is going. And that's where I've met you all. But let's jump into just like question number one. Everyone wants to chase the big wig clients as they feel it leads to social proof. They want to get that clout. If they do their thing full time, then, they'll be taken seriously. At least that's, the route that I thought I had to take. Can you speak towards the experience of the value of small and medium clients and the benefits that may outweigh working with them versus the big guns? And let's lead off with Jen.
Oh, Okay, me, yes. Hi, everyone. Well, I think smaller clients, you don't realize until you move into the realm of larger clients how magical it can be working with small clients. Because with a small client, I mean, in many instances, you can easily convince them that you're the expert, and they came to you because you know what you're doing, and they don't know anything about design. The bigger the company, the more they think that they know everything, which they do. They know a lot, but at the same time, you just become some person that they've hired and they have power and control over is how they feel it,
Production artist,
and they
in
can
a
hire
sense.
anyone to do, yeah, what you can do is how they kind of feel. So there's just a lot more people to run things by, and it's not a bad thing. It's just,
It's more likely that it'll become design by committee, I feel like,
Yeah.
because they're like, yeah, we're going to have our shareholders look at this. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, no.
well, and the whole thing behind that is the more risk there is, the more people are going to be joining in to try and minimize the risk as much as possible, which means a lot of the creativity and the fun and just the fluidness that a lot of us love about creativity, of just like making something and like riding that high and kind of getting it done quickly, it goes straight out the window and everything takes a lot longer and really kind of gets distilled down. So there's a lot to be said, even if you are chasing those big clients, like power to you, do it. I mean, it's so valuable to get that experience to learn how it goes. But when you start working with them, you'll remember why it's also fun to balance that work with small clients who give you way more freedom, and you can kind of, set the pace a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would totally agree with that assessment. And one of the things that's interesting about working for big companies is that a lot of times on the insides of these companies, they have tear sheets of the smaller brands. They have the inspiration of the smaller brands, and they're looking at a lot of that stuff actually. So it's sort of just an interesting sort of tug and play between big brands sort of being inspired by smaller brands. And I think a lot of the most interesting work I've done over the last couple of years has been for sort of just medium, small size brands who said, hey, we like this thing you did. Do you want to go wacky with us? And so I think that for me personally has been a lot more rewarding working with some of this, I don't know if New Belgium is a small brand or not, or a big brand, but they just let me do whatever, honestly. And so they're not, they wouldn't be Adidas, but in terms of size, but they're letting me flex on whatever I want. And I think honestly, that's the kind of stuff that just pays dividends. Like making a really rad thing pays dividends, probably more so than having just some large brand name. That does help. Certainly it's a cosign, but it's just the people making rad stuff are the people making rad stuff. And I think that's sort of universally agreed upon with designers, that it doesn't really matter who the brand cosign is. I mean, that's
Totally.
my thought.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you all have experienced this too, but I found that our mid-tier clients are the best paying. Like the middle-sized companies that are probably at their most efficient, they've hired exactly who they need, and it hasn't become over bloated yet. There isn't like a real excess and breadth of like expenditure. Because when you get to the real top tier clients, they have so much going on, and they're so used to kind of like leveraging their name to get whatever they want at almost like cut rate prices. They'll find anyone to do it cheaper than you,
Yeah.
because everybody wants to work with them. So sometimes you're appalled by the pricing that they're expecting to get, and
People
I find
will
that
be pitching for free. They'll literally let's pitch you some ideas that I spent on for the last couple of weeks.
Some exposure
Exactly.
bucks.
Yep.
Exposure bucks.
Well, you see those, logo contests. And you're like, who is this? And it's like, it's Coca-Cola. What? I'm not going to do a logo.
It's like, surely of anybody you can afford with all that sugar money to pay for your own logo, Oh, man.
So overall, the sentiment is what I'm gathering, that I'm hoping like the people here and here that aren't on the level or the stature that you're on yet, is that you don't need big brands to be successful. Like, yeah, it's helpful, it's cool and all, but at the same time, like you can work your way out to it. And just because you may not have a big client list of select work doesn't mean you still can't crush it and make waves.
100%.
I'm sort of old school sorry, I just mansplained. Sorry about that.
Not at all. Josh, but you're sort of old school.
Yeah, I was just saying I'm kind of old school with it. Like, I think your portfolio is the thing that pays dividends. Making interesting work is what it is. And it's like, just because you played for like this big team, if you don't have a proof of concept, you're not really leveraging much. I mean, maybe there's some manager, art director level type of stuff where you're not really an individual contributor necessarily, that it probably matters more. But I think just at the level of the practitioners that me and Amy and Jen are, I think it just matters more that you can make cool stuff.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was going to say is like, it's so funny how like the fun work for the smaller clients is what brings the bigger clients usually. So it's like, and having that and even just being able to share it in your portfolio. I have so many friends who are like, can't share this, it's under NDA, can't share this, it's under NDA. We actually started having a caveat in our contracts that if a client won't let us show the work, that the price goes up, because that's the way that we generate. That's like our biggest marketing asset is our portfolio. So, if they won't let us share it, it's almost, we usually just won't even take it. It's almost not even worth it. Also we're egomaniacs. Like I can't talk about it and share it. It's not even worth it. If the world can't see it. No, I'm kidding.
My head barely fits in this room right now.
Yeah.
I just want to make cool stuff. So if you're preventing me from doing that in any capacity, it just immediately changes the project dynamic to me.
It does. It's hard. It's hard to get excited because already like just working for yourself, Ariza, this, it can be really isolating. You just sit in a room alone all day. So that's like getting to show the project at the end is like the one time I get to like interact with humans and be like, this is fun, right? Let's talk about this, like, hello, is anyone out there?
They're out there somewhere. This looks like all my imaginary friends.
To stack on top of that, your original episode, Hoodzpah, that was all about getting uncomfortable and hiring yourself. Josh, yours was all about like why concept is king to stand out. In order to even get these jobs in the first place, the fun jobs, it goes back to hiring yourself in a sense. So how do you still keep the play alive and carve out time to do your thing? A concept comes into your idea, always hurried, never worried, or whatever it is, that or a basketball Lakers reference. How do you carve out time to make that happen when your plate is just hella full with life responsibilities, client work, deadlines, merch, etc.?
You guys go first.
Yeah, we do a ton of, I think I'm just like I was listening to Sam Verghini's episode with you actually, Scotty. I love Sam.
Thanks for the share, both y'all. Like,
of course.
Thank you. That
Sam
means a lot.
Like, yeah, he's so talented. And
he's so chill. I don't even think he knows how dope his work is.
He's like so down to earth though. And that's what I love about him. And he just likes to do it. So he does it. And that's kind of how I am. Like I'll see something that I like. And I'm also very competitive, which is why I love sports. So I'm just like, I bet I could do that. And I bet I could make something really cool. So I always like
almost said, I bet I could do it better.
I almost said that. I did almost. Yeah. And you caught yourself. I did catch myself. This is called PR happening as we say it.
It's so weird to hype your own stuff without coming off as like a dick. You're like, I'm so good at this.
Totally. But I think, yeah, but it's like, obviously you get into this because you want to be good at it. It's not even, the funny thing is sometimes I'll know I'm not good at something yet, but I'm like, I can figure that out. And that like, spurs me onward. So I'm always just like, Sam is like, I'm always doing stuff on the side just for fun.
Do you intentionally be like, yo, I'm feeling a little burnt out these days, or I'm overwhelmed. I need to carve out some playtime. Does it ever get to that point where or is that just yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, I have to. Especially with client work sometimes because, we are working for clients and I love that actually. Like that's the reason I didn't go into fine art fully is because I need a concept. I need a subject. I need something to start with. And then I can riff. I love riffing on like something with parameters. So I don't want the client to feel like this is what you get, take it or leave it. I obviously want them to be involved, but sometimes, just whether it's like nutrition labels or FDA guidelines or whatever you have to follow for the project, it can like water down, the concept. So having your own free time to like try new skills, that's how we got into like really into Type Further was just like doing all these fun little lettering live streams. It shares our process. It kind of, helps others figure out like how to do some typography things and it helps us learn new skills, so just, anything where I'm like, I think I want to learn how to do that. I just give myself a little project and then figure out a way to like make it helpful for our audience as well and give it away as like a little freebie or something.
Yeah, I'm sort of on the topic of making things in your free time. I'm sort of just in a fun position where Chomp is the thing that I would make in my free time. And it turns out that that's just a brand that needs content and needs graphics and no one can tell me shit, when I make stuff. So I think it's ironic because it tends to be the thing that gets leveraged a lot for like new work. So
that's awesome.
It's like when you're just off on your own brief, doing your own thing. That's the thing that has been helping out. We want this thing. We want this look. And so that's been helpful. Yeah. All the airbrush stuff that I was doing for Chomp got leveraged into a bunch of ad campaigns, this last year for Fruit Smash. So I think, yeah, the kind of exploration, the little bit of brief, the making stuff in your free time is always helpful. I'm the same way as what Amy was saying, where it's like, I want to know how that was made. I think I can get this look. I can art direct and I can get to this level. But, you know, there's sometimes you miss the mark, but, you know, it's still fun to just kind of like play with the tools, you know. I'm not a content marketer like a lot of designers are, where they like, you know, they do a phrase every day, or they do some type every day. And I'm like, how on God's
like Alan Peters just kicking out something every damn day. Dude lives in my feed.
Yeah. It's incredible. You know, leveraging a lot of followers sometimes helps a lot of people. The more followers I get, the more people are just asking me to design their tattoos. So I don't, I've not been totally convinced that that's a route I want to go yet.
I do want to like give you a huge shout out. I'm big on engage audience building from an authentic standpoint. I love when you do shoot me 2 emojis and let me just make some shit together. Like, dude, that is the dopest thing.
I love that.
That's like such a sick ass hack to get engagement, but then you deliver and just crush it. I keep throwing, I think, the same one up every time, like a dinosaur and a piece of pizza. Once in a while, I'll switch it up and be like, maybe he'll notice me. But
yeah, I know I want to do it. There's a lot of good ones, you know.
There's some like, killer ones, but I think that's like
doing aliens and stuff. I want to draw an alien, but it's one of those things where it's a bit of a challenge and it's a bit of a hack, because you're just like, you know, who's serving up free content for me? I mean, obviously I have to do the hard work of like art directing and designing it, but it's a fun little engaged process.
It's like getting a brief from someone else.
Exactly.
At the most basic brief form, you know?
We did, I did send me your last text or something, your last text you received or something like that. And somebody said, happy birthday, bitch. So I turned like a middle finger with like a birthday candle with the middle finger. And it's just, you know, when people are just.
And that turned into a piece of merch, right?
Yeah, it's merch. You can buy it now on chompbrand.com.
It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, no, I think the engagement with the audience is fun. Briefing yourself is fun. Dude, it's a fun job, man. It's just cool that we even get to do it. You know,
I think that's the main thing. It's play. It's fun. And a lot of people have unrealistic expectations of like, oh my God, I got to monetize this overnight. I just roll out of bed, start designing or building merch or designing logos, and I have to monetize this right away. I'm like, dude, that's going to suffocate the joy.
Sometimes it 100%. Does. Yeah. If you want to test how much you love something, do it for a living.
You got to like enjoy the shit out of it and be good at it in order to do it long-term before the demand and the value you're able to like attract and provide with it. Speaking of parameters and constraints, let's talk about constraints. That is huge topic in principle. I like to work with my students, and especially in terms of like time management, giving yourself a brief or client briefs. And these seem to be areas that students or creatives I talk with all the time struggle with the most. And so knowing that you do a lot of personal work in your own merch lines, product lines, as well as tons of clients work, how do you leverage constraints towards your advantage as opposed to like constraints paralyze you?
Yeah, we both of our groups, we design for a lot of different mediums. Like,
oh yeah,
I was just working on some broadcasting stuff for a show that's going to be produced for Ariel Helwani, who's kind of like the leading MMA journalist. And it's just kind of, you know, constraints are like a funny term because they are parameters. Like, you know, I've never designed lower thirds before, so I designed some lower thirds, or, you know, hadn't really designed for title graphics too much. And it's kind of just, for me, it's actually just fun to try new things, you know, like, oh, I haven't designed for this medium before. Let's see what it looks like, or podcasting or whatever else. Podcasting is totally untapped in terms of like, you know, Scotty's doing a nice job and having people kind of illustrate and do their own tiles. But outside of that, podcast art is just bad. And it's not.
Oh, it's so bad.
It's
so easy to stand out.
I feel very blessed over here for every one of you all. I'm very, very, very lucky.
The Lamborghini one was super sick.
He murdered that. That was so dope.
So I think there's kind of an untapped place there. And I think just designing for new mediums is really interesting and fun to me. So. And then I think the last thing I would say is a lot of my clients do make my work better. Actually, as much as I reluctantly hate to say that, like the constraints or the parameters or the adjustments that they're asking for usually help the project look more better. You know,
it's so true. It's like doing the New York Times crossword puzzle. I like the puzzle aspect of it.
Right. Right. I mean, the constraints are what make it kind of like a challenge for sure. The scariest thing to me is like a blank page. So if I have no constraints, that's when I really start freaking out.
Same.
So,
Oh yeah, just do whatever. And you're like, oh fuck.
and then it becomes, I know what I don't like when I see it.
Oh yeah. Sorry, can I cuss on this podcast? I shouldn't.
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
No filter. If you look in like the little category,
Yeah.
I think I probably have the most swearing based creative podcast. So it is what it is. I've had people message me randomly like, I'm unfollowing you and I'm unsubscribing because you swear. Like, you really needed to tell me that? Okay.
It's the mark of a bad person.
Wow.
It says explicit right there. So
I think so.
Just
Back to
not for you.
And you said this thing of like, I'll know it when I see it. One time I gave my tattoo artist just too much opportunity to make something, and it basically ended up being like, you didn't give me any guidance, so now I'm kind of stumped. And it's like, I think it was kind of frustrating for him because it's like, I just gave him a list of things he could draw, and it's like, okay, well, I just need a little more nudge than that. And he kind of realized over time that just too much freedom is actually really unhelpful for people.
So like one tip that I give students then, just to like add something else to it, I'll make it super brief. But when a student's struggling to hire themselves for a project with all you are experts at, I try to at least help them like, hey, constraints breed creativity. Give yourself like a 4-hour window to knock something out. It has to be done. Use a specific color palette. Use one medium. Use the same Procreate brush, whatever it is. Strictly go digital, iPad, or just keep it micron, whatever. But do you have anything else that you would say is a tip for your own personal work, or that you leverage in terms of constraints when you get a brief or a client job with a crazy deadline? Any hacks that you have?
Yeah. I mean, as far as constraints for myself, I don't know if it's necessarily with a client, but if I'm trying to do a personal project, which is like the thing that can get out of hand the quickest as far as like procrastinating and just never posting and never finishing, I give myself set time parameters. And it's actually why I started live streaming the process, because you have to sit down and do it for an hour and you have to just finish something.
It's like habit stacking. In Atomic Habits, they talk about get one habit and then stack it with another habit so you can do it. Okay.
And people expect it. So they're like, when are you going to live stream again? And you're like, oh yeah, like, I guess we should do this thing again. And also I need to do an illustration for our new book or like whatever it is, so that really helps me to have, I'm like, okay, I'm giving myself 1 to 2 hours, and whatever I finish, I'm going to post. So it better like get cooking, and it helps me just like get over the, like, does this look right? Does this look right? Should I use this color? And just like make something, which I think is the hardest part.
It allows you to not be too precious with yourself if you have these parameters and time limits. Yeah.
And I love that Sam said that too. Sam Bergini, he was just like, just post it. Like, people get way too precious. That's why Instagram, everyone hates it now, is it's too polished. It's like, that's why everyone's fleeing to TikTok. So it's like, share it even when it's not perfect, and say, this isn't done yet. And then people will appreciate that. That's the real look. It's like Jen and we were talking about a while ago, like scrolling down all the way to someone's Dribble profile to their first work, somebody you really love. And you're like, it's just so like, it really levels the playing field.
It actually makes you feel so good. You're like, okay, so we all originated somewhere terribly awful. And then we all
post the turds.
I get it.
Yeah. And the great thing about posting something that's not that great, or you're like, I'm only an hour into this, is then you're like, shit, I got to finish this. They have to know that I'm better than this. Because you'll come back to it the next day and see everything that's wrong. And then it helps you like get moving to finish it. So yeah, giving myself a time limit. And also the best thing we ever did was set a color palette for Hoodzpah. I can't tell you how much time I spent trying to figure out color. We make color palettes for our clients all the time, so they avoid this. And yet it took us like 5 to 7 years to finalize a Hoodzpah color palette. So that also helped.
Send that to me so I can use it for all my projects.
Okay, cool.
Josh, you have anything to add for your constraints?
Yeah. I mean, I just have, I do that like emoji kind of feedback thing. And I think a lot of that is just the pressure of like, what can I make in this moment or free time? And it's just like a fun little engagement thing. So I think my constraints are that, like, I ask people to do something, so I should reply back and actually make it happen.
Yeah.
Also, Scotty and Ariza, you guys both have kids, so you're like, I just have to get this done so I can go home and like be with my family. I don't have that thing, so I'm just kind of like,
boundaries and deadlines. Like, otherwise, I'm a workaholic. I'm obsessed with this. This is play. I don't ever want to shut it off. So family is a good constraint for me, for sure.
Oh yeah, well, that also filters all the people who like want to meet with you but won't tell you about their project. Just like,
Like,
Can you have a quick? Can we hop on a quick phone call? You're like, we don't have quick phone calls anymore. You gotta tell me what.
Right.
Got to take
Tell
my
me the
kids
budget.
surfing.
tell me the budget, tell me the scope.
Right. And if you can't explain it simply in an email, like there's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Like, like
No, I know what the problem is. It means we want you to work for free, probably.
although, I mean, I've had someone told me once that their biggest clients, like, are people who are like, will send them an email from their phone and it's like, call me, I have a project. It's like, which is the most annoying email you can ever get is just
100%.
call me, I have a project. You're like, I need more context because I need to know going in if I'm going to say no or not, but anyways, but that was, he was working with like some of the biggest, Fortune 500, but those are people who are so busy.
Like Amy@disney.com. You're not going to be.
Right.
You say, I'll take the call. I will take the call.
All right. A lot of creatives think the path to success, again, is full-time freelance to get that clout. And all the people they look up to, like you all, also have their own merch line, their own products. I was guilty of this. Like, oh my gosh, in order to be successful, I also have to have my merch for my fans to buy my shit. But you all slay it in both of those departments. Can you speak towards your path of building product-based businesses outside of your creative day job work?
Yeah, I mean, you can start an apparel brand, like in Bootstrap one, or you can make a bonfire using $100 bills. And they produce pretty much the same amount of result.
It's so true. It's so hard to do merch and like, don't force it and don't feel bad if it doesn't work because it's so much work and you really have to love it. And it's so few make it successful like Ariza did.
Yeah, successful. Thank you for calling me successful. But I think one of the things about the merch thing is about stick-to-itiveness. And not buying too deep, right? I mean, you could obviously do like a printful plugin to your Shopify shop and just see what kicks off. And if people are interested on the print on demand stuff, then maybe you make some units. For me, it was sort of, I was always leveraging that I had kind of some retail support, wholesale purchasers, people who are buying in bulk. So that has always made it a bit easier. So I would get a PO, I would produce some extra units for my e-com shop, and then I would deliver to someone's, retail. And so that's how I'm able to survive. Without that stuff, I don't know. It's really difficult to make a profit margin on that kind of stuff. But it is brand building, right? Like the exercise is that you're building a brand. People are becoming familiar with the intellectual property. They like the messaging. They like the colors. They like you. And that part is really, really special in terms of learnings. But otherwise, you can just get a bonfire or use, or use $100 bills as toilet paper.
It is funny.
Result. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's trial and error. For 100%, you can't go all in and think overnight, I'm going to make a bunch of money on this.
Yeah.
So in that same vein, like you said, start small and test it small, and then you'll see what people actually want. Because the things you think they want are never what they actually want.
It's so disappointing.
Yeah.
And we started out with stuff that was like one size fits all. That's a real way to start because sizing of t-shirts is such a nightmare, especially if you're doing women's and men's.
Yeah. Or like a wallet, like I think the SKU count, like just for people who don't know, when you have one style of t-shirt, you usually have 5 SKUs. So you have a small, medium, large, extra large, double extra large. When you have just a wallet or something like that, you just have one graphic on a wallet and you really only have one SKU. So I think, there's a budgeting units issue that always happens there with folks. And I've never been great at it personally. So hopefully one day I'll get it.
Right. We kind of think of it, we kind of treat it as usually like some sort of a Hoodzpah internal like promotional gift is where most of our merch comes from. It's just something like, hey, what's something fun that we would like to wear that we could give to friends or people after we finish a project? And it's a cool way to kind of like cap it off and, remind them of us, right? That's the big thing. It's like when they see it, they're like, oh yeah, Hoodzpah, and hopefully they
leave behind or something.
Exactly. So it kind of starts as that. And then it's like, if people on our social, when we post about it, want it, we'll make more. So that's a easy way to look at it is like, I'm not going to make money at this. This is more biz dev to kind of just like build like brand recognition and create some sort of like an emotional connection with my clients. And then it's bonus points if other people besides your clients, aka like peers or just fans want to buy it. Right.
Yeah.
But, so that's one way we look at it.
But y'all sold like 10,000 books.
So that's what I was going to bring up, though. Never in my wildest dreams would I've ever wanted to write a book or thought that we should, or that would be what was selling well for us. But speaking back to where we met at the Creative South conference.
No, we met Scotty at Craft,
Circles.
didn't we?
Circles.
Circles, that's what it
Okay,
was.
okay.
Circles.
Yeah, we had like all of us crammed into a car heading
I
somewhere.
saw you when we
to-
were driving by, and I go, Scotty, get in. We're getting barbecue.
I was like, barbecue?
jumped in.
Fuck yeah, I'm down. So
I
Exactly.
remember that so clearly.
Well, Creative South was our first conference, and we got invited to speak, and we had never spoken before. And we're like, what would we even talk about? And Mike Jones was like, well, just talk about how you started your business. And we're like, okay. And we couldn't even really remember how we done it. It was so trial and error, and we had done so much wrong and had to overcompensate and correct so much.
people
But
need
we
to
went
hear
back and
that. People need to
Yeah.
hear that, because otherwise it's like, oh my God, I wish I could be on Hoodzpah level or Mr. Ariza's level.
Exactly. No, but
Before
we
you
all did
started
it
like
wrong
kicking
first.
out merch, how long had you been grinding or slowly building an audience behind the scene before you're like, fuck it, I'm going to put out a pen, or I'm going to make a coffee mug with a funny saying and don't type on it that's like sold out 17 million times and I still haven't gotten one. So like, how long were you like, okay, I need to just give this a shot? Because a lot of people are just defeated if their sticker pack doesn't sell out when they have 100 followers. And they're like, I suck. I'm not cut out for this. I'm like, you didn't even give yourself. I put my first print. I've talked about it here before. I made a series of 5x7 letterpress prints. I had 10,000 Instagram followers. I thought I was going to sell all 300 of these. I still have 100. I've probably given away 150, and I maybe sold 50 of them.
Yeah.
That's it. We did so much merch from day one because we were just trying to build a portfolio, because our work before that had just been from the coupon clipper we worked at. So we were like just trying to build work that looked cool so anybody would hire us. So we started making merch day one, but it was all like very low stakes. Like I didn't letterpress it. If I had to pay someone to do it, I wasn't doing it.
Oh, we just went and
I
got it
would
done at
cut-
Kinko's.
And or I would cut my own like lithograph, or what do you call those? Like, it's like, you
Ruby Lith.
carve your own, like, and you press your own. I was making my own prints.
Wood
If I
block?
couldn't do it, something like that, yeah.
Black or rubber stamp.
yeah. And
Rubber stamp.
if I couldn't do it, we weren't doing it. It was like spray paint. It was like spray paint on t-shirts, and
Super
just like you said.
DIY, and you're
Oh,
doing
yeah.
small limited runs for like
Limited
proof of
runs.
concept.
And honestly, just like you said, no one bought. I think our first couple prints, no one bought it. Like 2 friends, maybe 3 friends. Your friends that love you
Got
buy it
one.
because they feel bad
Yeah,
for you.
Yeah, it's so endearing in the beginning. You feel like a little kid because it's all
Yeah.
names like popping up in your queue. Like, oh, your aunt bought something. You're like,
My mom bought 5 of these prints. Awesome.
I've seen my sister's name pop through, my brother's name. Yeah, I think with the product stuff, a lot of people are too ambitious in the beginning, and I think like just making interesting graphics is cool and on its own, right? Like monetizing something like that is going to be overwhelmingly difficult. But if I was to give like a couple tidbits of advice about that, I would say pick something that people would buy multiples of, like over time, right? So like a t-shirt is something people could own 10 of or purchase 10 of, but like a wall print or something like that just tends not to really wall art in general is a very difficult thing to sell a lot of. People just only have a lot of space. I have a ton of frames in my office because I like them, but I think I'm kind of the exception to the rule, so there's a surplus of people trying to make prints in that space, but kind of not enough demand there to really make an impact. Headwear people do a little bit better with because you would own lots of hats, but tends to be that a lot of women don't really wear baseball caps and that kind of thing. They wear like, they want to look like they're on a farm or some shit, or like a Mennonite. But like I think I think things that people would buy multiples of are genuinely good things.
Or start out with digital products. I feel like that's so low risk. And then whatever you make off of it, you can use to
Like a
leverage your
font?
next physical good. Yeah.
Font,
Then your
texture.
physical good is monetized or is funded by, the proceeds from the last thing. And it feels like it's like if you sell some, great. If not, like it was a test that you did and you wouldn't have known until you tried.
Well, that's like Amir with Garm, GARM. He just started that, goods company. He just scanned
This was
in
the
all of
sponsor of
these.
the podcast.
Oh, is it? Oh, awesome. Well, he just scanned in all of his old collections of just like ephemera, which there's no copyright on them. They're so old, but he just scanned it all and put it into this digital download that he's selling.
Big
for
book of
30
inspiration. There's volume 1, 2, and 3. I'll link it up in the show
Exactly.
notes. Just
And
saying.
it's so valid, and he could have got it printed, but then again, there's like a lot of logistics and shipping and printing stuff. So he kept it simple, just a digital download, and you pay $30. It's just like there.
Oh my
It's so
God, yeah.
easy.
Those digital asset companies, they had it figured out from the beginning. And you just
100%.
sits on a Dropbox folder somewhere.
Yeah.
It's genius.
It
yeah.
is.
Like,
genius.
dude, I've killed it with Procreate brushes, just making my own, and then everybody just showing how I use them on my stories. And so many people kept hitting me up. What are you using? I'm like, oh shit, I better just sell these. And it's
Yeah.
just made a killing on my site and then on like design cuts. So yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
wild.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. And like, I used to think like, who makes money at fonts? Like, well, that's because I wasn't making any money at fonts at the time, but you can. And I'm now starting to see that. But
So-
it's funny how at first you always think like, you assume no one's making money with these smaller products, but it's like, once you kind of start building your audience and like you said, showing them how to use it and things like that, like it is amazing how quickly it can kind of get rolling.
Scotty,
like-
that speaks to something important though, which is that your audience will tell you what they want from you. If you show them what you're doing, they'll eventually tell you what product you should make for them by saying, how can I do it? Can I have it? Show me how.
That's
You
how
know?
we
It's like-
started our book.
It's like Seth Godin's, his quote is like, don't build a product and try to find your customers, build an audience and then find how to serve them and build something for them. I'm like,
That's so good. Serve that. That is a really great way to
Mhm.
phrase it.
that's
Yeah,
my
like,
whole
how-
business has been built off that model versus guessing in the beginning and creating fucking products no one wanted.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
or like,
yeah,
how can
yeah.
I make money off this? Yeah. It's
Mhm.
like
That's everybody's
yeah.
trying to monetize in the beginning. Like, you don't even know the demand or value you provide yet.
Yeah.
Like, or you don't know your voice. You don't even know your style. It
is
will
so
come.
true.
It will all
It is
come
so
to
true.
you.
People try to like become a Draplin type thing, and it's like no one wants your name on their T-shirt yet. Like, no offense, you know what I mean? Like, you haven't gotten that far yet. You know what I mean? But everyone thinks they could just put their name on a T-shirt and it's going to be like the next thing. But you have to give, and people like Draplin do. They invest so much up front and give so much free information and so much time. Like anyone who's ever met Draplin knows, like he is so generous with his time and his knowledge. So it's like you have to do a lot of like investment in your audience. So if like that's not for you, and if you're kind of like, oh, that like I don't want to waste my time doing that, then you might have a tough time selling your own brand.
You have to do cold outreach and run Facebook ads to cold audiences off your, no, not about that cold life. I want to make sure we get to this question, then blast through those Twitters. What's your top hilarious or even nightmare client story in a abbreviated, condensed version?
I feel like Ariza should do his 3 for all 3 of us because I know he has so many funny ones.
I decided I've been doing this for a long time now. It's usually more mistakes that I've made or like red flags that I kind of avoided. For example, I used to work at Nike and I misspelled the word forever on a t-shirt and we created like 1,500 units or something. All had to be incinerated. So
They couldn't even send it to like starving children or something to wear. Like that just seems like such a waste.
the apparel
Donate it to
business
Goodwill.
tends to do stuff like that, especially even luxury goods. They're like, we have all these extra Louis Vuitton purses. Yeah, we should just light them on fire.
Oh my gosh.
It can be a bit of a waste there. In that instance, I'm actually not really sure what they did with the t-shirts, but they just never hit the floor or anything. I'm constantly making mistakes, or I just misread emails or do just funny, dumb stuff. My clients are usually pretty lenient. I mean, one of the things that I realized early on is that clients are not adversaries. They're really they're your partners. And so if there's anything adversarial happening in any way, then somebody's misunderstanding the relationship pretty quickly. Or expectations hadn't been set. I find that usually happens with clients who just don't use a lot of creative services. And there's not to be too much an advice giver, but I tend to avoid work where if someone's not letting me art direct and deliver on the product, I need them to be very clear about the thing they want me to deliver on. Because if they can't trust themselves and they can't trust me, anywhere in between tends to be a real problem. And I can fish those out pretty quickly. Oh, you're trying to tell me that I have freedom, but you also want to art director, and it's just not going to work in that way. And I'm fine with either, but tends to be that those are the times I notice actual nightmarish things happening or brand projects going completely off the rail. I think I was having one in 20 brand projects kind of go off the rails. And that's when I actually called the Hoods and was like, let's talk about your process. I'm curious what you guys are doing. They're really one of 5 people not that you're one person. You guys are two of like 5 people that I'll like call or contact, to ask advice. Because I think the self-employment, the self-marketing, there's just not a lot of people you can like lean on for that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I don't want to put anybody on blast too much, but I have had some absolute goddamn nightmare stories for like clients.
I know it's really hard. It's like, you obviously don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. When you have nothing, no, bridges to burn or anything.
Just publish it on your deathbed.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. I mean, there's definitely red flags. Like mostly Jen and I noticed them in the signing contracts phases. And we've had a couple of projects where everything was approved and then it went to contract and they kept trying to be sneaky in the contracts. And we just had to say, listen, we can't sign this. So I guess, you might just find somebody else, and we've had to let things go. And it felt like the end of the world because it's like those clients that seem like, oh, it's such a big name. It's such a cool thing. And then the more you think about it, you're just kind of like, it's not worth it. We would have been so stressed. It was already a rush project and we can't even get what we all agreed to written in a contract fairly. Like
it's the hardest to walk away from.
So it's like
you get to the point where you're like, you've invested so much of your time like bidding on it and getting it there. You've also maybe even scoped so that you were planning on that. And then when you're kind of up against the wall and you got to say, oh shit, yeah, I might need to take this. Then to me, that's I've compromised too much,
No, I mean, it is. It's just like, and I think the one thing that's interesting that I was shocked at, like when we were younger is like, we had a business mentor who was like, just tell them you need to change this. And I'm like, change the contract? But they're bigger than us. Surely they know what they're talking about. Surely they wouldn't screw us over. Well, they might, and they might try. And it might not even be the creative director you're talking to. It might be the legal team who's, just trying to like overly protect their side. So it's like, don't be afraid to be like, hey, this verbiage doesn't make any sense, and push back, because we've had a lot of bigger companies that we were like, hey, this contract is kind of weird. It's not really for what we're doing. What if we just use our contract? And they're like, oh, okay, that's fine. And we're like, oh, wow, it just took like asking a question or pushing back a little bit. So I think it's easy to be scared when you're like a freelancer of 1 to 2 or like a small studio, but it's good to push back and you get more respect in the end, I found.
I think so. Yeah. People don't take it personally. I mean, I recently hired an account manager who's going to scope all my work and, initially have the initial conversations with all my, the influx of people coming in. Not that there's just so many, but I noticed I let bullshit like get through. Like there was like a van wrap. Someone was like, hey, will you do a van wrap for 10 grand? And I just like didn't even reply to the email. I mean, it would take me like 2 days to do that thing. And there was stuff like that just slipping through. It's like, I mean, I feel like, damn, dude, you should cut this part out because now I feel like an asshole. I was just like,
no, like, I have a cherry to add on top of this once you're done riffing. So
yeah, I mean, it's obvious that there are parts of my business that I just can't get to and I'm not going to be an expert at, and one of them is just like dealing with the amount of inquiry and vetting of the people who are interested. I used to be on the other side of it where I was like chasing a lot of business. And I think what I liked more about that was like, I knew who I was going after, but the vetting and the combing through of like who's coming in is a lot harder for me right now. It's just not a skill I've really adopted. Can you hop on an hour phone call only to find out that you don't really want the project and you can't really make it happen? That part's really hard.
Before we move on to the Twitter questions, I think to just summarize it all, so many people think from a social media perspective of like, wow, doing full-time freelance just looks like the best thing in the world. And they don't see all the unglorified grunt work behind the scenes of the email, the admin, the accounting, the taxes. If you don't have representation, you don't have like a good CPA lined up. There's just so many things that you don't have a team around you to delegate things with in the beginning. There's just so much shit. And I think it's just all over glorified and not everybody's cut out for it. And I'm just glad that you all can talk about the hard times with it, the non-highlight reels, and just be real, because it's not for everyone.
Oh yeah, well, you guys are lucky. You guys share a business together, and you share a bunk bed too, right? Like you can just lean over and just be like,
so the rumors say.
The middle of the night. What do you think about
love
this
to know
concept?
what people think that is going on. That's hysterical. Just creepy twins.
I just use
holding
my Dixie cup connected to a string to Amy's Dixie cup. And we just talk all night about.
It's like telepathic though, right?
I love it.
We don't even need the Dixie cups. It's more just for the nostalgia of it.
The legal stuff definitely is a complicated thing. You really have to have like some representation here and there, and you have to you have to have people that kind of look over you or send the bullying emails on your behalf. I mean, sometimes one of the things I think that I always want to make sure that like I'm good cop, and when you have to be good cop, bad cop sometimes, like, or just good cop and pay me, like it just gets a little unfun, And I think there's a lot of reasons why agencies are kind of, diced up into different portions where things are either automated or they have some person just accounts payable who's handling a lot of that stuff. So it's like, yeah, it is kind of just not that fun sometimes doing that stuff, wearing all those hats. You get a little better, a little sharper at it each time, but it can be weird. Yeah.
Okay. One time a lady that I was working for, and it was when I was so new and I was giving her like rock bottom prices, so many kept trying to give her more changes to please her. We're on like round 12 and I had only scoped out 3, but I just knew I was like, this woman I can make her happy. Well, anyway, it got to this point where I was like, I've gone too far. Like you've paid for or I've gone over what the scope was, like, just pay me and we're going to end this here. And she was like, I won't pay you. And she had her husband pretend to be a lawyer. But listen, if you have to do that, have someone pretend to be a lawyer if you need to. She did it, and I Googled him and I realized he was not a lawyer, but it's like, have someone be like, hey, I'm the project manager, you need to pay. And it could be your husband or your wife or your girlfriend or your best friend.
Hello,
but, that made me laugh, and I've always thought about it.
It's lawyer Dave Smith here, and I just want to let you know I don't like the way you're handling it. I think, yeah, with the automated, like kind of like the bill, invoices, I think there's like clean and easy ways to handle a lot of that dumb stuff. It's just like new clients have to pay me up front. I just like, I can't hop in bed with like a lot of people or have time to invest in like onboarding a new relationship that it's a pandemic, y'all. I don't even know who's solvent.
See, that's the beauty of a side hustle though, is you can figure out all the unglorified shit behind the scenes slowly as you go. Like I could have never just jumped into doing my thing full time had I not spent 5.5 years of figuring things out slowly as a side hustle. Like there's no way I could be doing what I'm doing now. Junk Bouge on Twitter says, how do you steer the client in the right direction if they're dead set on something that you feel isn't good enough or could be better? I presented what I think is a better option, but they didn't even seem to give it a thought. I mean, first, don't show something you don't think is a good option, but where would you take this? And let's start to like rapid fire through them.
Amen. Yes and amen to that.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah.
Jen,
don't show things you don't like, for sure.
Ariza.
That's it. Don't show things you don't like.
But also, if you do show them like, hey, you didn't ask for this, but I think this is a better solution, and you present them that, and you give them the case exactly for why, and then you tell them honestly why the other thing doesn't work, even though you all thought it would. I mean, they've been given all the information at that point. If they won't listen to me, I'm kind of just thinking, well, they're the ones paying. Like, I can't strong arm this person and ruin the relationship. Like, I'm just not willing to go there, because I'm just like, well, I just want to show this in my portfolio. Like, if they're not willing to respect, that relationship, and they actually are willing to compromise what's better for their business, which I've told them the other one's better, then, that's just how they want to play it, So there's certain levels to which I'll fight towards and certain hills I'll try and die on. But then at some point I'm like, you know what? You can only exert so much energy on people who then are not willing to take expert advice, right?
Well, it's like dating. You have to figure out what the deal breakers are. It's like, just because they chew loud, you can't break up. I mean, or maybe you can. Maybe that is why you break up. But you know what I mean? You have to like figure out what's worth going there for.
Also, always present the dopest option first, and you don't have to show it in your portfolio.
Yep, 100%.
Okay. Next one. I like this. Chasthetic said, how do you balance the creative side of the business with the boring operations and financial side of the biz?
I think a lot of that for me is just automating really simple things that I wouldn't have to think about. Knowing how to vet people that come in and knowing how to get them to pay, and then just focusing much more energy on the stuff that's really fun. So I think I spend probably 95% of my time designing or art directing. I don't really spend much of my time.
Damn, do you? Good for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Fucking unicorn.
Oh,
I don't know. I mean,
we've spent
like
probably 30 to 40% managing.
Really?
But yeah, for us, yeah. I wonder if it's because, I don't know, we also have like, B in Arturo. So sometimes it's just like me sending them work and things, So I think sometimes it's like more than just like what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, you guys have a little bit more plate spinning in terms of the operations of your business, I think. I'm kind of a one-man shop. Sometimes I'll use an animator, that kind of thing. But I'm usually art directing and executing on all my projects. I mean, assuming meetings, like there are meetings for sure a few times a week,
right.
For like an hour. So that's the time that I'm not. I can't imagine there would be much else going on. And I have accountants and bookkeepers and stuff, so I don't touch any of that stuff.
And I think over time, it's slowly as you scale your business, finding ways to delegate more. Like I wasn't able to have a team of 4, but then this whole summer I was finally in a position where I could get all my podcast stuff off my plate and running behind the scenes. And all I have to do is just schedule and have conversations. So like, but
That's
it's
amazing.
taken
That's great.
years to get to that.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Yeah.
producing a show, like, so yeah, all that extra stuff. Like, you're the
But
talent.
Delegation, elimination, and pushing shit to the back burner that doesn't serve you. So lots of priorities thing. But again, figured out slowly outside of a day job. How do you keep? This one's from Kyle Centenverser. How do you keep the dream alive and energy up when times get hard?
Oh man, this happens all the time. Almost, I've got like a very up and down personality. It's like everything's great and then everything's like,
It's like
the
Iowa
world's
weather.
gonna end. Yeah. Oh yeah, big time. And so a lot of time, I just have to go outside and remember that the world is still spinning and that this really doesn't matter. And that sounds bad, but it is just work and it can be easy to forget that. So I always go outside. I take a little walk. I hear the birds tweeting, and I'm like, right, like, everything's going to keep spinning if this doesn't. All I have to do is like send them an email like, hey, I need an extra day. Or like, okay, so they want to print this way. They want to print it this way. Fine. It's on them. I did the best I could, just go outside.
Yeah, man, meditation, exercise. I finally have people. I'm such a fragile little baby sometimes. It's like, I'm like, if I have one project go off the rails in like 1 year, I'll be like, God damn, I should quit design. It's like, how you
Yep.
cut out this? I think, I think one thing is it's not personal usually, and anyone who's making the design thing seem personal is just either taking it too seriously or whatever. We're all just like, I think of it more as a blue collar job. We're just people need creative services, and we just deliver on those things and move on to the next one.
I also think about like my friends who have like regular jobs. I'm like we're so lucky to have this job that's like really fun for the most part, I'm like, what if I had to like dig ditches or something? It could be so much worse, is I guess what I'm saying.
Well, and
There's
also, like,
always
there's
someone who would want to be in your spot.
yes, yeah.
There's a danger to tying all your self-worth and purpose to your job. So just don't do that. Like, sure, it's fun. And certain days you feel like you've really made an impact, but there's going to be days where you just need to watch Columbo to get through it and like work on the side, like you just have to find ways to motivate yourself to just get the work done. It's on certain days,
Yeah. Speaking of digging ditches, one time I was getting a massage from this lady, and she was like working on my hands, and she was like, I can tell you have a good job because you have the hands of a lady. I was like, so I guess I don't dig ditches. Yeah. And I laughed super hard, and she like did not laugh at all, and I realized she was being serious. So I'm thinking about becoming a model with these gorgeous things.
Nice hands.
Oh,
nice
so
hands. Yeah, I get made fun of for having non-laborious hands too. So I think this one builds off this last one. This one comes from, this is Mahamar. What are your tips for taking long periods of time off work, especially when you have that no work, no pay mindset early on in your freelance? Like, damn, that one hits me. I struggle with that.
I wish I had
We don't take vacations.
Yeah.
We're still not doing good. So tell us, Ariza.
Well, I'm going to take 2 weeks off this month, just because I've been grinding and working on a house. And so houses are really expensive to fix up, and they're also expensive to buy. I live in like a modest house, but I think part of that is how much do you like what you're doing? And for me, a lot of like design doesn't feel like a lot of work, and it's just something I like to do. So sometimes I bring my laptop with me when I go places. But I try to take a few weeks off a year kind of sporadically, but it's never really all at one time. But yeah, if you're self-employed, I mean, if you're not working, you're not eating sometimes.
Back's against the wall. It's a lot of pressure.
So it's kind of the life you choose, I guess, comes a little bit with the territory. I mean, both of me and the girls here, we both have separate businesses that sort of can sell, assets that can sell and have revenue sort of on their own without us working too much. So that's been a nice buffer. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely been in the boat where you're like, oh yeah, but I got to keep working a bit to make rent or make mortgage, So,
I mean, for sure, once you build up your savings, a lot of that, the freedom comes into play that you don't feel when you don't have that security. So build up your savings as soon as possible, like 2
3 to
months
6
worth
months?
of operating expenses. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 to 6 would be
Three
great.
3 to 6 is the optimal, but at the very least, try and get to that 2 month early on, because that gives you a little bit more power to at least say no to work you don't think is right for you to start. But then after that, to have more control over your schedule. And then the thing I find the hardest about actually blocking out time to go on vacation is, you plan ahead, of course, you tell all your clients, but there's going to be a few bleed overs. So I'm like Ariza, where I don't mind taking my laptop with me and doing a few things as long as I know that the majority of the time I'm trying to shut off and like rejuvenate and stuff. But I don't mind, just like a little bit of work just to like keep everyone feeling like it's going to be okay. I'll be home soon. Like your stuff will be taken care of.
I think it's the permission of like, yo, your business isn't going to fucking crumble if you take a little time off. That's me. I grinded myself way too hard, 0 breaks from side hustle all the way to this year. And like, I was about to collapse for real. Like it was bad. Man. So like I forced myself to take 2 weeks, kind of 2 weeks off in June and spend days with like kiddos, totally getting out of there. And then I've scheduled 2 weeks off in November or 1 week off in November. And then the last week off or 2 weeks off through the holidays. Cause I haven't taken any time off. Yeah, with family and stuff. I grinded through the whole holidays last year. Oh and then I went from launch into launch into launch into launch, like 8 launches in a row, burned out. So like I had to take breaks. I would just ignore my body. And if you ignore your body long enough, your body's going to make you pay.
Oh yeah. You do have to force yourself because like Ariza said, sometimes it doesn't feel like work. And I'll get on these roles where for like 2 months, I'm like, I'm flying high. I'm a great God, like nothing, everything goes my way, but you will burn yourself out even when things are going right if you're just working too much. So it's like, I always, Jen, I don't know if but I like to, when I'm feeling like a little bit stressed, I'll just take Friday off. I like to take like littler breaks more often as opposed to like a 2 week long thing. But however it works for you, that's the great part of being a freelancer is you get to choose what works for you. That's like the best part. And this kind of doesn't have to do with this, but I would also say, don't believe the hype that everyone else is doing so much better than you. Everyone's doing it on credit.
I'm totally unconvinced that people are all the time making money. I know what it takes to run a business. So, and I know what the market rates are, so if someone's a millionaire, like they have developed some app asset that can sell itself over time, there are market rates for things, but I think a healthy mind is just like these other things, having relationships and running and exercise and meditation and being outside. Sleep
and fucking water.
Like you will not be a normal, sane person if you work on that. Or I won't be a normal, sane person. Maybe there's some people they can run high, but I just, I'm just like teetering on losing my mind pretty much all the time.
Yes, I know. I can be like that too.
So I feel bad I can't get to all the questions. Last one here, and we'll wrap this up. But this one's from Baylor Davey. Who or where do you look to for inspiration? Man, I hear this a lot, but I'm curious to hear your answers.
It comes to me all over the place. And usually when I go to look for it, it's like when you go to the mall and the mall. Are we in the 80s?
There's still
when
malls?
You go somewhere, when you go online, wherever you shop to look for something specific, you're never going to find what you need if you're going after it. But like when you're just browsing and looking like without intent is usually when you find the things that you like and want the most. So that's why, like when I'm watching TV, constantly I'll be stopping the show and like taking pictures of weird little things in the background or like archive footage from like a documentary with like cool text in it. So it kind of hits you wherever. And the best stuff comes when you're not really looking for it, unfortunately, which means just like go out and see different things and break up your routine and explore things that you don't see every day,
and be actively paying attention. It's so easy to just like get stuck in like the TikTok scroll or like just Netflix binging like nonstop. It's so easy to just kind of try to turn your brain off. But it's like, if you're actively paying attention to what you're doing, you can find a lot of cool inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, I think there could be, for me, I'm with all that stuff. I art direct myself. Usually I'm making mood boards, but also do creative writing for content, just ideas, just letting them flow, like writing lists of objects or scenes or concepts that that's where the Never Worried series comes from, all that kind of stuff. And then collaboration and feedback, that kind of thing. Just people who think a little bit different than me. Sometimes I'll show Amy and Jed some stuff and we'll have lots of good notes about that kind of stuff. And then, I think the collaborative process. So, I mean, inspiration is kind of everywhere, but I have a pretty strict process by which I make ideas and don't really get into it too much.
And Sam said it in the podcast with you, the last one that I listened to, but like I also have a notes, like in my notes app, I just have a huge document of stuff that comes to me. It's always while I'm driving and I'm like trying to write it down, like without getting in a car accident, but I'm like, this is hilarious.
There is Siri, like, hey, remind me of this.
I know.
Oh, I put her to work.
I don't trust Siri. She's listening in on
She's
the
always listening to us.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm just so old school. I just forget about all the awesome tech.
But idea collecting, like you have to collect your ideas, especially if you can get them in one place. And then the last thing I would say is I notice a big pain point is people get so wrapped up in comparison because they're and regurgitating the same shit they see online because they just continually scroll on Instagram sourcing inspiration. Get offline.
Dude, get offline. Remove Instagram from your home screen. It's so
tuck it in a folder within a folders folder.
Oh, yeah. I took a break from Instagram and I was shocked. Well, I know it's so annoying,
but tell us how much it helped you.
First of all, it did help. It did help, Jen. Thank you. But I kept automatically, every time I would open my phone, my thumb would go to where the Instagram icon was. And I was like, it honestly freaked me out. And I was like, this is like,
especially waking up, rolling out of bed and going right to it. Ooh, that's dangerous.
Yeah, so I was just like, it was good to take some breaks.
But is there anything more self-righteous than the person who is taking a break from Instagram and then wants to tell you how great the break from Instagram is?
They want to tell you.
I don't think it's so. That's a sister. Yeah. No, I think the breaks are good. I think
they
that
are good.
Comparison is kind of a funky little thing that gets in the minds of everyone. I more see myself like, why didn't I get that opportunity? Or like, why am I not awesome at everything? And
why is my podcast not getting as many downloads? Why don't I get that sponsorship? I still like have to shut that shit off.
Well, there's just the truth is luck or opportunity. It just doesn't come evenly across everyone. Sometimes it comes because you're just in the right place at the right time, or you knew somebody, or you were ready or weren't ready at the right time. And I think just people should recognize that, like, in time, if you're making interesting work, people will start to recognize it and they will tune in and they will start to hire you. But I think, I do it too all the time. But I try to, Instagram is just a slog. It can be gross for sure.
I think it's not about winning the game. It's just how long can you stay in the game, and then opportunities, relationship behind every door is a person who's opening the door. So like all of this just happens when you stay in the game long term, and the ball will bounce your way.
We just need to all be like Ron Artest. It's like, we may not be starting lineup, but when they call on us, we are ready, and we are ready to make that game-winning shot.
No, I think we have to
yell, "I love basketball!"
And throwing elbows at people too.
Yeah. And if you have to go up in the stands and beat somebody up. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that.
The play is to be Chris Paul, who's making money on the Allstate commercials while he's playing the finals. That's who you gotta be.
I'm the new Chris Paul.
I'm really the Trevor Ariza of the league. We share.
Hey, you're back on our squad, homie.
Good at defense.
Dude, I love Trevor Ariza.
I play for everyone. I'm not loyal.
No, but he is. When he gives you, he may only play 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but he will like give you everything for that 5 minutes.
For sure.
I'll try not to end this on a Lakers note here, but oh my gosh, our squad. Let's go.
Let's go.
Can we give let people know where they can find you and support you online, both of you too, and Josh, your personals and your businesses?
Yeah, we're at hoodzpahdesign.com and Hoodzpah Design for pretty much everything. And if you want to see how people use our fonts, we're at #HoodFonts.
Yeah, if you want to find me on Instagram or Twitter, the handles are the same for both. It's Joshua_Ariza or @Chomp Brand. And you can find me there, and also in the water sometimes surfing.
Every time I have to type Joshua Ariza, I'm like, Joshua. It's just not, I'm like, who is Joshua?
So,
who is this person?
So prestigious.
I only know Josh.
Before we end, I was like giving some student portfolio and I wanted to use some reference. And I was like, she probably would have looked me up before I came here, right? Because I'm speaking at the school. And so I start typing in Joshua and it just finishes Josh Noom. Like the designer Josh Noom. My name is not in there, by the way. Anyway,
she was searching for Josh Noom, who is an amazing designer.
I like Josh Noom here too. Well, I really appreciate y'all making time to do this for me, and I'm glad when we were able to make it happen 2-3 years later. It took too long, so I wouldn't mind continuing to do this. The triplets. What is it?
Yes.
The 3 J's. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being willing to be peppered with all these questions. And I look forward to connecting hopefully soon in person. I owe you all a slice of beer, whatever you want. So thank you.
Nice. Sounds good.
Good
All
hanging,
right.
Scotty.
Talk soon. Peace.
Thanks again for listening. It'd be awesome if you took the time to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let the comment below so we can connect. Again, if you want to catch a shout out as a future listener of the week, make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes and give it a rating and review.